pageantry in general for upcoming young girls who are interested in pageantry, I think the biggest thing is to understand who you are and what you want and build your brand according to that, because I've seen a lot of the time a lot of pageant girls just start a project because I'm doing pageantry, and then all of a sudden it's disappeared, like you don't hear anything about it anymore. So we don't want that. We want something that's sustainable and that's long term. I actually went for an audition for a Netflix series called One of Us is Lying. I know a lot of young people know that one, but I didn't make it. But at least I got to meet the film production team.
You went through the audition?
Yes, I did. And I actually appeared on a TV commercial for a local Australian beer called Balta Beer. Yeah, so I actually did appear on something. And also I did a lot of modeling work for a makeup brand called Huda Fode. She's got a large following online.
So you're making quite a bit of money on the side?
Yes, I was.
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond.
Dumela, and welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast, your favorite podcast here in BW. I'm your host, Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. As always, I bring you life-changing, informative, impactful business education through the vehicle of entrepreneurs, both accomplished and aspiring here in BW. And as always, let me ask you to strike the subscribe button. Just press that button, please. Too many of you, unfortunately, do not subscribe. I have it on good authority, according to YouTube anyway, but more than 2/3 of you just fail to press that button. Please hit the subscribe button. As well, my book is on display here. It's available here at Mogobe Plaza, $350. Alternatively, you can get it from Exclusive Books at Airport Junction. And if you're outside the country, we can get it to you. You can reach out to us on +267 397 1368 397 1368, and then we can send the book to you via courier. You can make those arrangements with our people to get the book to you. Let me welcome my guest. We're going to talk about all things entrepreneurship, all things pageantry, all things elephants, and all things tourism. But let me give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, Miss Perry. If somebody were to ask, who are you? How would you respond?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mogobe, for having me today. It's such an honor to be seated here with you. I know you are one of the most respected men in the country in terms of entrepreneurship. So it is such an honor that I am here seated with you and we're going to have this discussion. As he did mention, my name is Seneo Parry. And if I were to be asked who am I would say I'm just a young, humble girl from Palape. My mom is from Palape, and my dad is from the United Kingdom, but he moved to New Zealand when he was young. And also I am the last born in a family of two, like it's just my sister and I've got an older sister. And my mom, and I've also got a stepfather, and they live in the Middle East, so my family is literally all over the world.
Yeah, you're an international being,
Yes.
as it were.
True.
And what about academics?
Yes, let me touch on that as well. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Entrepreneurial Business Leadership from the Botswana Accountancy College in collaboration with Sheffield Hallam University. And also I am currently working on my master's in hospitality and tourism, but I will be focusing more on food security and supply chain of hotels. Yes.
And in terms of your company, what is it called? What does it do?
Yes, I did register a company before I left Botswana. It's called Jakana Adventures Botswana, and it was going to be more like how would I explain this? Because I did a lot of marketing in the country, I decided that maybe it would be better if I opened up a company where I could bring in tourists from different parts of the world. So I registered this company with the vision that I will be bringing in a lot of tourists from different parts of the world. However, along the way, I decided that maybe this is not what I actually want to do. So I haven't actually started business yet, but I do have it registered.
Okay.
Yes.
You do seem to be very busy on your social media pages promoting tourism. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, my journey in the tourism space started right after I won Miss Earth Botswana 2020. However, let me say that in 2019 I did compete, but I didn't actually win the pageant. I had only won the best project. So my journey started then when I just met my father after so long, and he's someone who's
This is the one in
traveled-
New Zealand.
Yes, my father in New Zealand. He's traveled Botswana quite a lot because he's had businesses here as well. So because of that, he wanted to introduce me to that part of the country that he fell in love with. So he used to take me on trips, and I also fell in love with the country. And, you know, I thought to myself, we haven't really marketed our own land. We always see other foreigners doing it on our behalf. And I decided, you know what, maybe this is meant for me. Maybe I should take up space and actually promote Botswana and show Botswana how beautiful our country is, and also just, you know, show them that we can travel our own land before we can travel other countries.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it a lot, although it was very tough. I mean, a lot of it was sponsored by myself. I used a lot of my savings to actually go on these trips. I did try to pull in
Sponsors.
stakeholders and sponsors such as Botswana Tourism and Hata, but it wasn't very easy at all. I think a lot of people see the glamorous side of my journey on social media, but they actually don't know how much it was.
Tell us what was involved in all that.
Yeah, well, it was quite a tough journey, I should say, but I did enjoy it. I mean, what's life without challenges? They really built me as well. I've learned to write proposals in this journey, trying to find my way into the industry, trying to network, and, you know, building my own profile from scratch without having to use anybody else. Of course, I did have a very dependable and loyal person who was right by my side, and I called him. Well, we decided to work professionally, although we knew each other from way back. His name is Mr. Kyakopa, Mr.
Shima.
Shima Kyakopa. Yes, so I worked alongside him. He helped me a lot on my social media. He also helped me a lot in terms of how to write proposals and all. So yeah, it was a pretty interesting journey. The challenges, yes, of course, trying to work with government, it was very difficult. A lot of my ideas I've seen being implemented, which I had, you know, submitted proposals to the different ministries, and thoughts came to my mind like, what is really going on? Am I being blocked? Is there something wrong I did?
So you'd submit an idea or a proposal.
Yes.
They would just take it, implement it without you.
Well, the ideas were very similar to what I had, you know, given.
Put forward, yeah.
Yes. So I started questioning myself a lot, like, what is actually going on? And having had any feedback from them in terms of...
I've heard this over and over again, that especially with the previous regime, that they didn't hesitate to just grab from Botswana and use themselves.
Yes, that's very
But
true.
it hasn't happened to me, but I'm sorry that it happened to you.
Yes.
And what did you do? What did you do when you see it? You know,
I think the best thing is to... I think, for me personally, I think that if something is really for you, no matter how much somebody else tries to do it, it's not going to be the same.
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work out. So I don't have any hard feelings. I don't have anything against anyone. I wish that person the best of luck. But it is a thing of to actually learn, I think next time, to protect a lot of my data as much as possible so that nobody can actually try to implement my idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to talk to you more about tourism, but before we do, I want us to shift a little bit to pageantry.
Yes.
You have won quite a lot of pageants, and you are here as face of Beauty International, Africa International. Explain to us what this is, what it represents, and then perhaps go a little deeper. Let me just get your crown there to have a look while you go ahead and answer the question.
Okay, so this Miss Face of Beauty International, Queen of Africa. Oh my God, let me just say, networking can open amazing doors for you. This competition actually it started off with Miss Africa New Zealand. I had...
This is your crown. Show them your crown.
Yes. This is the crown I won in Taiwan last year in September. And it's such an honor because I represented Botswana while I was away from the
So
country.
it's Face of Beauty International.
Yes, Miss Face of Beauty International, Continental Queen of Africa. So it's very close to my heart because I'll explain more about it because it's... For me to have won this, it holds a very close place to my heart because just before the pageant, I received terrible news on my health that I had cancerous cells in my cervix. And this was a week before
The competition.
me traveling to Taiwan. So the surgeons and doctors had tried to get me into surgery as soon as possible. So I had to really plead with them and let them know that flights have been booked. I have to represent the country in Taiwan. There's nothing I can do right now, but can we please adjourn my surgery? And it went well. When I got to Taiwan, I had to be as strong as possible. I really couldn't allow it to affect me. Although, yes,
But
on
what
some
was going
days...
through your head at the time, thinking that you've been given heartbreaking news and there's a possibility of life-threatening surgery?
Of course, yes, there were moments where it was lingering on my mind a lot. I knew that post this competition, my life could end because the doctors did mention that this is a life-threatening surgery. And I embraced that a lot because I said to myself, this is the chance that I am given by the heavens to do something I love, which is representing my country, and I'm doing it outside of my country as well. So I embraced that, and at the same time I had mixed emotions. I remember I broke down a lot of times with the girls, and the moment they heard what I was going through, they just couldn't believe it. They just thought to themselves, you really deserve to win because we don't understand how you're here. Yeah. So I think for me that was the most
And how tough was the competition?
It was very tough because I didn't get any sponsors. So everything was from my pocket again. And remember, I'm also a student, so I had to use up all the savings that I had from my part-time job in New Zealand. So as well as having to try to get a few people in New Zealand who were quite supportive to help me on the journey. But it went well. I'm a very positive person. I never allow anything to bring me down. I go for what I want. So I embraced it.
So how many countries were competing?
There were around 40 countries. Yes, there were around 40 countries, and I should mention there were only 2 African countries that were competing,
Botswana
which was Botswana and Egypt. Yes, so
That's good.
I'm glad that we managed to represent Africa well. Yes.
What was your unique selling proposition, if you like? What is it that set you apart to make you win?
I think for me, I was definitely myself. I remember at some point I had my book with me that I just recently authored. And literally every day I would tell the girls a story, a page. I think every single day I actually told myself, you know what, I'm going to say one part of this story to the girls and make it very interesting. And you know, Botswana is known for elephants. We have the largest population of elephants, and that was my USP. That was my unique selling point. And I remember I just told myself, this is the best time for me to sell the country, and I'm going to do it very well.
Okay.
So
Now, can you grab the book there and maybe touch on the book a little bit?
So this is a book that I wrote. I had a co-author. She's from California. I met her in New Zealand. I met her through my sponsor. I forgot to mention that I actually am sponsored by Dr. George Mason, who is an environment. He's a very prominent figure in the Pacific region of the islands.
Dr. Mason.
Dr. George Mason.
Kudos to you, Doc. Kudos to you.
And may his soul rest in peace. He passed away while I was competing in Taiwan. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So he also had an author who also helped me author my book. She's from California. Her name is Nancy Mills. And we wrote this book together because she visited Africa a lot. She travels a lot, and during her travels in Africa, she did visit an orphanage in Kenya, an elephant orphanage in Kenya. And so when I told her about how much I've fell in love with elephants and the work that I've done with Elephant Havens Wildlife Foundation in the outskirts of Maung in Shorobe, it resonated with her, and she just loved the idea. And we decided to work on this book together. It wasn't easy. It took 2 years to finally complete it because I did have school in between. And also sometimes I'd have to travel to, because school is outside of the city, it's in New Plymouth in New Zealand, and sometimes I'd have to travel to Auckland, which is the city of New Zealand. I forgot to also mention that
You said a lot there. I'm going to talk about the school. I'm going to also talk about the elephants, but let's unpack it slowly.
Okay.
The book, can you highlight to the viewer what themes are you covering in the book, and maybe share one or two thoughts that are in the book?
So the book is mainly covering the idea behind Elephant Havens Wildlife Foundation, basically how the foundation began. It's narrating to children how the story of elephants in Botswana, and it really has a lot of terminologies that are very important for them at 8 to 12 years old that they need to learn. It also highlights a lot about safaris and, you know, how elephants roam around in those areas, how the orphanage actually is helping a lot with the human-wildlife conflict. So it's basically just educating the younger
young ones,
generation.
yeah. Does it have like a star, like a main character there?
Yes, it does have
Tell us
a
about
main
those.
character. So the main character is me, and it's highlighting.
You're the little girl.
Yes, I'm the little girl. The little girl that fell in love with elephants. So this little girl, it's narrating how she fell in love with elephants, how her story began with elephants during her safari escapes with her father. And when she...
So it's not fiction, it's also fact, it's also,
Yes.
you know, autobiographical.
Yes, it is. But we try to make it very creative for a young reader to be interested in it. Yes. So yes, it's basically just talking about the elephant orphanage. It's talking about how this young character grew up around her father having fell in love with the wild areas of Botswana, and eventually that rubbed off onto her. And then she got to meet up with the couple that founded the elephant orphanage, and she decided that she'd love to run with their mission to save the African elephant.
What do you think is the part that impressed the judges the most about the book or about the story?
I
The
think
pageant.
I think it's the reason behind the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people write books, but there's a reason behind a story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the reason behind the story, which is to continuously help Botswana try and navigate its way or mitigate the issues of human-wildlife conflict, is what touched their hearts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for those who may not know, what exactly is the conflict and how is it being resolved?
The human-wildlife conflict in Botswana currently is between the farmers and the elephants, as well as the people who live close to the elephants and where they roam around. There's a lot that is being done currently, but I think there's more to be done, especially with the policies that are in place. Yes, that's what I can say.
Okay.
Erra.
All right. And talking also about elephants themselves, have you, as a little child, developed a friendship with them? And can you share a little bit of that?
As a little child, as in my experience?
Yes,
or?
that you share in the book, yes.
Okay, so in actual fact, I have never had an interaction with an elephant on a personal level when I was young, only when I was older. But I can say that when I was on when I was on the trips with my father, and I started taking a keen interest in wildlife, I started to actually become more interested in the African elephant, because I remember all the time on game drives they would say that it's the most dangerous, but I always thought, why is it dangerous when it's actually just calm? I felt like maybe we're the ones that are provoking these animals, and then we say that they're dangerous. So in actual fact, that is what is actually happening. When you look at the human settlement in the northern part of Botswana where these elephants are, we have actually encroached our human settlements there. And I believe that as the Ministry of Land should plan quite well where exactly they should have human settlements and also farmland, because
But
otherwise...
the two have been staying side by side for millennia, isn't it?
Yes.
When we are still... So what's the problem now? Is it because the numbers have grown on both sides?
Yes, the numbers are increasing rapidly because they're coming in from our neighboring countries such as Zambia, Zimbabwe, Angola, but mostly Angola because of the wars that happened there in the previous years. So actually that's another good thing about our country, is that we're able to actually bring in animals. I'm actually quite shocked because people say that Botswana isn't able to handle a lot of wildlife, yet we actually have left 35% of our land to national game parks, and
That's a lot of land.
Exactly. So I think we're doing quite well
As a country.
Yeah, we are.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit about your health scare, your health challenge. What was it exactly, and how did you deal with it?
So when I was in New Zealand, there is an annual general checkup for women to just check on the
As
health.
part of your medical care?
Yes.
Yeah.
So every
medical
woman,
aid?
Yes. So every woman has to go through this annual checkup where they go and check on their cervix. And I just randomly went. I never had any signs that there could be something wrong. So I just went in, and I remember I was quite scared because I was thinking to myself, I've never done this in Botswana. And when I got there, the results took, I think, about a week to come out. And they did say that there were some precancerous cells that were present. And then they decided to let it go. And then I went the following year. This was in 2022. And then in 2023, no, actually this was in 2023. And then in 2024, last year, I went again. And then this time they said it was cancerous cells. And they told me you need to go for surgery as soon as possible.
Meaning it was already spreading?
It wasn't spreading, but it was about to. It was on the stage where it was
What
about
stage
to
was it?
spread.
Is it
On
like-
stage 3.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Eish.
So when I got to the surgery room, I remember I thought to myself, wow, at least I lived life. You know, I actually thought this was my last day on earth. Yeah, I did, because it was so overwhelming and it was so intimidating in the surgery room. There were like around 15 surgeons and, you know, medical practitioners there. And it was very intimidating with all those machines around me. So I actually thought to myself, yeah, today's the last day. And I called up my mom and dad and I told them I loved them. But they always gave me hope. So when the surgeons spoke to me, they told me everything's going to be okay. You'll get through this. And I went to sleep for about an hour, and my surgery took an hour. And then after an hour, I got up, and they told me I do have some cells still present, so they'll be monitoring them closely.
Because I read somewhere that everybody has cancer cells. It's a question of whether or not they metastasize to be dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is the situation now?
So now I do still have cancerous cells, but they're not at that stage. So they have to closely monitor them. So I'll be going for 6 months checkup.
Okay.
Yes.
So what advice do you give someone who's facing a health scare? What encouragement would you give to entrepreneurs out there who might face something similar?
Before that, I would actually like to say that I think we should take our health very seriously. I think we should do a lot of annual general health checkups because, like I said, I didn't get any signs that something could be wrong with me. This just came as a surprise to me that, oh, you have cancerous cells. So I think it's important that even in your busy schedule, you might think that everything's okay with your body. It might not communicate to you now, but I think it's important that you actually give more attention to your health, because at that particular point in time, my whole world stopped and I had to focus on my cancerous scare. So I think that for an entrepreneur, from what I went through, I think it's important to note that everything revolves around health. When your health is down, everything else stops. So I think health is wealth, like they say. It's very important that we really look after ourselves. It is absolutely
important, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely important. What are you doing in New Zealand? You mentioned New Zealand.
Yes, I moved to New Zealand in 2021, end of 2021. And it was at a point where I was very frustrated. Like I said, I really tried my best to promote Botswana and try to get stakeholders on board, and I felt like things were not moving in the right direction. And from that, I just decided, you know what, here is an opportunity for me to go outside. And I also just wanted to challenge myself, because I thought to myself, the world's my oyster. Like, why should I just hold myself back in Botswana? Let me go and try a different place and see what it has. So I went to New Zealand, and when I got there, I joined a talent agency called Jam Talent. So they get like films, because New Zealand is actually big on film. A lot of films have been filmed there, like Lord of the Rings and a few Netflix series. So yeah, I just decided to myself, you know, I do have a lot of talent that I felt was quite wasted, and I thought, let me just try this out. And I did have a couple of opportunities to be on films, but it wasn't like big roles. It was just, you know, background, and I did go for auditions here and there.
Did you appear in any movie that we can check out?
Unfortunately, I actually went for an audition for a Netflix series called One of Us is Lying. I know a lot of young people know that one. but I didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But at least I got to meet the film production team.
You went through the audition.
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually appeared on a TV commercial for a local Australian beer called Balta Beer.
Mm.
Yeah, so I actually did appear on something. And also I did a lot of modeling work for a makeup brand called Huda Fode.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a large following online.
So you're making quite a bit of money on the side.
Yes, I was. And at the same time as well, while studying, I also did a lot of work in the hospitality and tourism sector in New Zealand. I did all 3 departments of hotels, food and beverage, housekeeping, front office, and also here and there I would also do like some marketing.
This is a degree you're doing, a second degree or a master's, or
my master's. Yes.
It's called what? Masters in what?
Masters in hospitality and tourism.
Okay.
Yes.
And how far are you with that master's?
Because I came back home, there has been a lot of distractions, but I have to be done with it in the next 4 months. Yes, so I'm working on my paper alongside my...
You mean a thesis?
Yes, my thesis. Yes.
Okay, good luck with that.
Thank you so much.
Let's
I
hope
need
it turns
all the
out.
luck.
Yeah. All right, there's another pageant you've won, or another award you've won called Best Youth in Tourism.
Yes.
Tell us about that one and how you won that one.
Oh, yeah, that one was amazing because I won that when I was actually in New Zealand. I won that actually because I think I had shown the industry that, you know what, come what may, I am literally for this. I networked with a lot of talented people in New Zealand. I met up with one of the high fashion designers called Cecilia Kang. She's Korean. She's done New Zealand Fashion Week. She's done London Fashion Week. She's done amazing work with different celebrities all over the world. And I had the opportunity to collaborate with her on a concept that I came up with, which was to save the Okavango Delta through fashion. So during my stay in New Zealand, I decided, you know what, let me go back home and do this project. And I brought on board Steven Stockhall.
When did you come?
I came back in 2022 at the end of the year. Yes.
You
I came
brought
back.
who? Steven
Stockhall.
Oh.
Yes, he's a photographer in Maung. He's also an editor-in-chief for the Discover Botswana magazine. He was the photographer for that concept. So I think because I brought in that international designer, they actually saw that, yes, she's...
How did they find out about it? Did you then go on social media together or what?
Yes, we did a lot of campaigning for it. Like I went on radio. I went to SABC in South Africa and did it. I did a lot of interviews as well on radio in South Africa as well. And newspapers had already started talking about it before I even arrived. So
it was a big deal.
it was a big deal. And
So you're basically telling South Africans about Botswana.
yes. Yes, and they look to be more receptive of it.
So did you become the face of Botswana tourism?
I would say that, but it wasn't really the case. Yes, unfortunately.
How would you put it?
I would say that I'm really trying my best. I can say that I'm really trying my best, and I've tried to bring Botswana Tourism Organization on board.
But to win Best Youth in Tourism, that's highly commendable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, round of
Yes, thank
applause
you so
to you.
much.
I mean, that's very, very impressive.
Thank you so much, sir.
Now, how do you propose now to leverage these awards that you've been winning, these pageants that you've succeeded in, going forward, to leverage them to excite the public some more about your brand and to position yourself more? What is the plan?
Is this the plan for me or just pageantry in general?
For both, just the whole thing.
both?
I think of you as a package.
Okay. So for pageantry in general, for upcoming young girls who are interested in pageantry, I think the biggest thing is to understand who you are and what you want, and build your brand according to that. Because I've seen a lot of the time, a lot of pageant girls just start a project because I'm doing pageantry, and then all of a sudden it's disappeared. Like, you don't hear anything about it anymore. So we don't want that. We want something that's sustainable and that's long term. I think be genuine as well. Be yourself, and then everything goes your way. And for me, my long-term goal is to work for the United Nations. So I really am trying to ensure that after I complete my thesis, I do get it to be published on a good journal online, and somehow it will be linked to the United Nations, as well as hopefully someday I will be the Minister of Tourism in Botswana.
That's a good goal. That's a massive goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think having seen Lesego Chombo
Become a minister.
become a minister, it's possible. So I think the pageant girls should dream bigger. Yes, she has shown us that it's very possible.
Tell us about Jakana Adventures, your company specifically.
Jakana Adventures Botswana. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, that it came up when I hadn't decided exactly what exactly do I want to do with me promoting Botswana and trying to monetize the fact that I can bring tourists into the country. So at the current moment, I feel like I've moved more into something else, working with policies and working with writing books, and so I think I've lost a bit of interest in that. However, I do want to
Because I assume that you formed the company to use it as a vehicle
yes,
to monetize your other efforts,
yes,
so that you are not just a lone sole proprietor running up and down. You have an entity behind.
yes, that's true.
So if I was advising you, and I was, don't worry, I'll send you the invoice. I'll send you the fee note. I would say that you should keep the company
yes,
and use the company to promote the brand.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
for invoicing purposes, because I think you charge for appearance and things like that. Am I right?
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you want to speak a little bit more about that to make people understand what you are available to do and how you charge, etc.?
So actually the people that handle my talent is my agency. So they're the ones that directly deal with invoicing and payments on anything to do with public speaking, appearing on TV or billboards, or anything that has to do with my talents. So they deal directly
Who's
with
they? Shouldn't we know them?
my agency, Jam Talent.
Jam Talent.
Yes.
So how do we get hold of them?
They do have an email, and I have their business cards as well. Yes.
So maybe you'll share that at the end.
Yes.
Or if you have it.
Definitely I will.
Okay. Now, as someone who's a guru in tourism, so to speak, who's traveled the country up and down, what would you say? Could you share some of your escapades around the country, or your favorite trips and experiences?
I would say that I traveled most of the north part of Botswana. I haven't done the southern part of Botswana, but I'd love to do it. I would say that Kasane holds a very close place in my heart because that's where I met my father the very first time in my life. I was 8 years old, and he decided to take me on a trip, and that's where I fell in love with the wild. It holds a very close place in my heart, as well as the fact that it does have the quadra point where the 4 countries meet, which is Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, and Namibia. It's right under the Kazungula Bridge. So that's my favorite part of the country. However, there are some pretty amazing places that I've been to, like the Okavango Delta and Maung. I mean, Maung is the gateway to the Okavango Delta. So I think Botswana is a very beautiful country. Of course, yes, the rates are not pocket friendly for the locals.
It depends where you go, isn't it?
True, it
Then
does
there's
depend.
some have special rates for locals.
Yes, it depends where you're going, like you did mention. But like the Okavango Delta, especially as well in Kasane, it's quite pricey.
They charge in US dollars?
Yeah, some of the camps charge in US dollars. Yes.
That's not right, is it?
Yeah, no, we're trying. Well, I was trying to advocate for the local rates, but I believe in 2020 during the COVID-19 fiasco, like there was a lot of Botswana traveling to
These places.
these places because the rates had actually become very friendly to the locals. So I was very proud of that as well. And also,
But
thank
then
you.
are we going to benefit only when there's a pandemic? That doesn't seem right.
It doesn't seem right at all. Unfortunately, I can't really say much about that. But hopefully, when I do become the Minister of Tourism, I'll definitely make changes.
Yes.
The right changes.
Yeah, you heard it here first, listener. She's going to be the Minister of Tourism. I want us to talk about Mr. Kyakopa for a second. You mentioned that he was pivotal. I want you to talk about him in two levels. How important is it to have connectors like him in general, and specifically about him? Why was it such an important connector in your life in terms of making you get to where you are?
Mr. Kyakopa is such a selfless person, not only in my life, but in a lot of people's lives, I'm sure, as well as yours. We've known each other for a very long time, apart from having worked professionally. We met through family. He's like a family friend. But I remember when we reunited, the first thing he said to me was, "Seneo, you have a lot of talent that you're just sleeping on, and I think it's time for me to help you really find yourself and who you really are." And I thought to myself, it's COVID, like, because we met during COVID. We reunited
2020 or 2019?
2020.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, wait, what is he talking about? Like, it's COVID. And my journey began during that time. I started traveling the country when literally everything was shut down. People were not allowed to travel. And that's when my journey began. And he's been such an amazing soul in my life. He's opened all the doors that he has for me. And I think it's important to really find someone like that who is coming in genuinely and who wants to see you succeed without having to expect anything in return. Because I know a lot of people have... I called him my brand manager at that time. And even till now, I still do call him my brand manager. I always say, "Mr. Kyakopa, you'll always be my brand manager, apart from being my brother." But it's very important to have a person like Mr. Kyakopa, because he doesn't only tell you what you want to hear. He also tells you what you don't like to hear, the honest, brutal truth. He always, told me, if there's the biggest way to fall in life is to have a lot of friends around you who are useless. And he made me introspect a lot on the people who I hang out with. He made me introspect a lot on how I should monetize my talents.
Brand, yeah.
And my brand. He really made me introspect on a lot. And, in my personal life as well. So...
No, that's good. Kudos to him. A round of applause for Mr. Kyakopa if he's watching. That's very good. Nice, positive affirmations there about him.
Yeah.
Now, we want to, as we get closer to the end of our conversation, look forward in terms of what the plans are. If I was to ask you of your short-term plans, as once you finish your masters, then what?
Once I finish my master's, it's getting into the United Nations.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So what about entrepreneurship? There's a show on entrepreneurship. I promote entrepreneurs. Are you not an entrepreneur anymore?
Well, I do want to do a lot with. I actually want to register my NGO. However, I'm still deciding whether I should run it from Botswana or run it from New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, I'm still trying to find my way.
Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of New Zealand, what are the comparisons between Botswana and New Zealand in terms of not just the landscape, but the people?
There's a lot. There's a lot of similarities and differences. The indigenous people of New Zealand are called Maoris. They're very similar to the San people.
Baswara.
The Basara. They're very, very cultural people. They still have the cultural values, the way they greet each other, the way they,
How do they greet each other?
there's a certain way of greeting. I think it's called the haka,
Oh,
which is also
the
done.
noisy one.
Which is also done before playing rugby.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yes,
Where they
Yes.
stick their tongue out and
Yes.
intimidate the opposition.
exactly.
But can that be done in a normal greeting when you meet somebody in the street?
Some of them do it to like the other Maoris.
Mm.
Yes, so I think even with the way they dress as well, they have their own cultural dressing. There's a lot of similarities with the Maoris and the Basara. Apart from that, the lifestyle it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
In New Zealand, a child as young as 12 years old is already having a part-time job.
Really?
Yes. There's nothing like...
There's no child labor prohibition.
Well, they're teaching them well. They need to find their way because at 16 you need to have moved out,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like is a good idea. I think we spoil our kids too much.
Mm-hmm.
We just give them whatever they want, but there it's a totally different
scenario.
bring up altogether. As well as environmentally, New Zealand it's standing out. They're very conservative people.
Mm-hmm.
They take conservation very seriously.
We also do in Botswana, don't we?
We do, but in terms of the way they do the waste segregation, I remember when I first moved in, because I lived with an American couple first, and they used to tell me that, no, you can't put glass in this rubbish bin, you have to put this and that. I used to be so confused, and I'll be like, wow, these people take this very seriously. I wish we could do this in Botswana, because it saves a lot. It really does. So it was quite interesting to see that
So they recycle the glass.
yes, they recycle the glass. They segregate glass, plastics, and just your normal rubbish. Yes, and they do like color coordinating. So very interesting.
You're probably going to be the minister who introduces it here.
Of course, I will.
Okay. All right. You already shared your short-term plans. Long-term?
My long-term plans, like I did mention,
Beyond being a minister, surely there's...
of course, yes, that's where the NGO comes in. Yes, I really do want to run my own NGO, especially working with climate change and, the environment, which is very close to my heart. But like I said, I'm still trying to find my
and then
way.
in terms of pageantry?
With pageantry, yes, there has been a lot of, directors that are interested to have me participate. But I think for me, I've outgrown it. Yes, I've outgrown it.
Are you not mentoring the younger girls coming up?
Yes, of course. Whenever the opportunity comes for me to mentor the younger ones who are interested in pageantry, I am 100% going to be available for that. Yes.
Wonderful. Now, what about book writing? Is there anything in the coming up?
My book that I recently wrote, it will be a series of 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
So I've already completed the first one. We're going to be working on the second and third one.
What's it about?
So the second one, because the first one is covering how the elephant orphanage came about, the second one will be talking about exactly the human-wildlife conflict, like what the farmers and the elephants
You
are
have to deal with.
Yes. And then the third one will be possible solutions and
Yeah.
how we can work together.
I see you are very strong on social media. What is your social media strategy and approach?
My social media strategy is handled by Mr. Kyakupa.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so he can answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
So I just give him the content.
Okay.
Yes.
But what's the plan? Is it to monetize it, or is it being monetized, and how is it going?
Currently, it's not being monetized at all. Yes, because I think I didn't have the, I don't know if it's the right audience. I'm not sure what it is, but I never really got to talk to Mr. Gyagopa about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he did mention something about an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you'll discuss that with him.
Yes.
You show him this clip and then he'll remember.
Exactly.
All right. Okay, now this is the time when you get to ask me a question if you have any.
Interesting. Okay, so my question is, how are you able to be so diverse in running so many different things at the same time, and then also you're sort of like a social media elite? How do you handle all of that?
It's just by God's grace. I'm lucky enough to work with talented people to whom I delegate. You've seen my team walking up and down to delegate different tasks, and then I would have different entities having different people, because our main business is property. So you will have different managers at different levels. So my job is simply to remind them of their jobs and to ask them questions and to seek reports from them. So I'm here because of other people who I try to empower to push the agenda of the company or the companies that we work for. So I try to give different people authority to make independent decisions and only to bring to me hard decisions. And it's not a science. It differs from entrepreneur to entrepreneur in terms of how you do it. But I think of mine as an approach of managing managers. I try to manage managers. That's all I do. And the managers manage the business. I hope I've answered your question.
Not really, but to an extent.
Yeah.
You did?
You'll have to read the book. I go into greater detail in the book. Did you buy the book?
Someone bought it for me.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
But you haven't finished reading?
No.
Okay. So I go into detail. There's a whole chapter on my business philosophy. There's a whole chapter dealing with the gentle giant. Those 2 chapters specifically break it down in more detail.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. As we wrap up, time for you to look at that camera and just leave the viewer there with a nice, uplifting, motivational message as we wrap up.
So thank you so much, Mr. Mogobe, for having me today. I just wanted to say to the viewers who are listening and who are always supporting this podcast that I know that it's a new year, 2025. Some people are not sure of how the year is going to look like, but I just want to tell you that everything eventually works out. Don't be under pressure. Don't compete with anyone but yourself, and just give yourself time and plan everything, and everything will fall into place. And thank you so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing to this podcast. Continue doing so. We love the support, and we thank you so much for actually watching us. We are nothing without you.
Thank you very much. Lastly, can you give them all your contact details and where they can find you if they need your assistance?
So you guys can find me on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and all my social media platforms are consistent with Seneo Parry. And if you guys want to work with me, you can speak to Jam Talent, and they're also available on all social media platforms. Just write JAM Talent, so that's Jam Talent, and you'll be able to find them. Unfortunately, I cannot give you their mobile number because it's quite long and it's in New Zealand. So yeah, that's how you can find them.
Okay.
Yes.
Great stuff. It remains with me to thank you and to appreciate you for doing such a wonderful job, Ma. Well
Thank
done.
you so much,
You
Mr.
were
Mogobe.
great on the podcast.
Erra.